The town moves one step closer to reopening the West Barnstable shooting range. We have details from last night's Conservation Commission meeting on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Wednesday, June 25th, 2014. I'm Sarah Mantle. The Conservation Commission approves a land swap that could pave the way for the reopening of the town's shooting range. The land swap was requested by the state's Conservation Department. That department says a shooting range does not qualify as passive recreation and is not an allowable activity on conservation land. Conservation Commission member Tom Lee spoke in favor of the land swap before the vote.
An interesting process in terms of trying to understand from the public for the shooting range and for us to learn a lot about the open process discussions. And ultimately, we have to realize that this shooting range is a town facility. And ultimately is, if we want to improve anything, sound barrier or whatnot, we need to get away from the conservation label and change to municipal land use so that the town has a free reign of improving the range and open up the range. And I think that's the positive things that we should look at. I mean, you know, I'm sure that all of shooter has been looking for when are we open this range. That has been the ultimate questions, and we have not been answering that questions until we get the letter from the state saying they agree with the swap. So I think this is important steps. And on the side benefit, the other Bruce Hill is our drinking water protection area, so that's a side benefit as well to me. So I'm no problem with that.
Okay.
Second.
Is there a second? Okay.
May I?
I'd like to respond.
After some discussion, the Conservation Commission voted unanimously to support the land swap. The move will next go before Town Council for its approval. It will require a 2/3 majority to pass. The measure would also need to be approved by the state legislature. Now, following that vote, Commission member John Abadili took steps to make sure the Conservation Commission would maintain its involvement with the shooting range, even if the property is no longer considered conservation land.
What I want to make is that a letter be sent to the town council, each town council member, the town manager and the town attorney, specifically requesting that the town council and the town manager approve the continuing role of the Conservation Commission in establishing rules of operation, fee schedule, hours of operation, and related matters pertaining to the Barnstable gun range. That's the motion I'm making. The reasons for the motion, or do you want a second, and if there is one, and then I can discuss my reasons?
You can go ahead and discuss it before we get to that.
You know, you could comment about the 30 or 40-year history that we've had in this, but I think there's something really important that not everybody knows. It was this commission that initially raised the question of the town doesn't have waivers of liability for this. Nobody else knew that. Nobody else raised the question. No town council, no lawyer, no shooter, no neighbor, no insurance company. Nobody raised it except members of this commission raised that issue. Members of this commission wrote the current safety rules for that. Nobody else. Members of this commission were the ones who proposed the berms and the sound barriers out of deference to the neighbors. It was members of this commission that did that. It was members of this commission that wanted to change the hours and try to reach a compromise, splitting the baby. Nobody came out happy with that, obviously, but it was members of this commission that did that. Most importantly, it was members of this commission that sat for many hours and listened to 200 or whatever it was, people come before it and raise issues that were tremendously helpful, that I think saved the town money, that came up with the idea of using certified range officers instead of police on an overtime basis, you know, came up with ages for kids. This 7 people, not one, listened to this, heard it, modified it, and then took a vote. And it was 7 individual votes that took it, 4 of which it was required to pass it. And I think that's different than the role played certainly by the town council, which probably wouldn't, and I'm guessing wouldn't sit here and do all of that. They'd probably be in the hands of the town manager. And his role would be different, and he would be the ultimate deciding person, one person who is subject to all of the influences as a town manager, working for the town council and representing the people. So I think that the Conservation Commission, for multiple reasons, should continue in its traditional role of managing, of determining the critical areas. We don't manage it day to day. That is natural resources that really manages it day to day. But for example, the idea of movable targets instead of people shooting down range came from the commission, nobody else. And I don't think those kinds of that history should be ignored in what we're doing. Therefore, I would formally make my motion, Mr. Chairman, and hope there's a second.
Okay.
Second?
Is there a second? Okay.
May I?
I'd like to respond first.
Conservation Commission Chair Dennis Houle said he could not support that motion.
I'd like to be able to support the motion, John. We've discussed this often.
Yes, we have.
And, but as it's currently written, I can't support it because essentially what it's doing, having voted to take the parcel out of conservation, putting in municipal, we've given the authority over to the town, now we want it back and say we want to keep the authority. But remember, the decision is now in the hands of the town manager. And the town manager is the one who's going to decide what the appropriate role is going forward for anybody with regards to this range. And I think this motion puts it all your eggs in one basket and says, we want to be the managers again and want you to designate us. But I think realistically that may not come to pass. And
How do you know that?
we don't, well, first of all, at our meeting, we knew that there was a couple of
Some
councils.
disagreement on
There
that.
was some disagreement about that.
But we
So-
don't know what the 13 councils will do. I mean, they
Well,
may
it's-
not.
It's not that, remember, we were told, at least by the town attorney, that it's the town manager's decision.
We don't know what he's
under the
gonna do.
town charter, so you don't know what the decision's going
And
to
all
be.
this motion would do would be to ask him submit the request.
All right, so if I may finish, all right.
But let's just be accurate.
Okay. Since this is going to the town manager and you're making this specific request that the commission have this role, if that's not something he's willing to do, it doesn't give him any other choice or anything else that we're saying we're willing to do.
Nor does it take anything away from him.
Please let me finish, John. I didn't interrupt you when you were
All right,
making.
Dennis, but I just
Okay.
think we got to be accurate.
Okay,
and completely
you can
accurate.
respond, but please don't interrupt
right.
me. So what I'm saying, for me to support this, I think there needs to be another phrase at the end of the sentence, so that it would say that we were requesting that the town these are your words, that the town council and town manager approve the continuing role of the Conservation Commission in establishing rules of operation, fee schedules, hours of operation, and related matters pertaining to the Barnstable gun range, comma, or approve another appropriate role for the commission in matters relating to the range. So that if he doesn't accept the first one, then there may be still another role. He might designate the commission as the advisory board, like the Shellfish Committee or the Waterways Committee for the shooting range. He may designate the commission as an advisor on environmental matters, such as lead mitigation. He may create an entirely new board to advise on the gun range, but perhaps give a seat on that board to the commission, like on the Sandy Neck Board or on the CPC. So by adding this phrase to your motion, that it provides other opportunities to the commission, to the manager to make a decision of what role he might think is appropriate for the commission. Okay?
Second?
Is there a second? Okay.
May I?
I'd like to respond first.
Ultimately, the Conservation Commission approved the motion with 5 members voting in favor and 2 voting against. The chair will now write a letter urging the town council and the town manager to maintain the commission's oversight of the shooting range. We'll be sure to tune in to our hour-long news program, Barnstable This Morning, weekdays at 7 a.m. On tomorrow's show, we will learn more about an organization that is dedicated to helping women with chronic or life-threatening illnesses, and we'll also talk with Hyannis EMS Supervisor Mike Medeiros. He's going to talk about the department's needs and plans for a new fire station. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mannel.